So next up on the list, we have Backbone.
Dude, this song, I've seen Gojira once live. Unfortunately, I haven't seen them any other times. I've been given opportunities, but huge regret not dropping work and everything to go see Gojira. When they played Backbone live, this is one of those live tracks that just kills. And I know it's almost like the punkiest song of the album in that it's so straightforward, and I feel like you go from Ocean Planet, which I believe is the very first track, to this one, and you get these two tracks encapsulating what you're going to find on this album, and that is the beautiful / heavy, which is Ocean Planet, or just straight heavy, which is Backbone, the heaviest matter of the universe, and to Sirius. So
this
Backbone,
is the one. Oh, sorry.
Up there. No, you're good.
I was saying you were saying this is the most punk song, and this is the one with the most explicit call to get the pit started. My favorite part of this song. Like, I rank this one almost entirely for "Put your feet on the ground now, go." Yeah.
Yep.
Just that.
There's another one.
That part right there. That's just so friggin' heavy.
I blasted out. Go. Yep. Beautiful.
Yeah. So, I had to double check the lyrics on that one. I had to pull them up. Be like, I know he's gonna beat you something, go.
So I was hanging out with my stepson last night, and I told him we were doing a death metal album with a whale on the cover, and he's really into marine mammals, and so I had him listen to the first 2 songs on the album. He liked Ocean Planet, which is weird because he really only listens to like weird dubstep. But then he heard Backbone and thought it was terrible and absolutely hated it. So for me,
you either get it or you don't. Yeah, this is great.
So for me, when I heard this, like, oh, it's like Slayer, but not as good, and I don't really like Slayer anyway. So it's a less good version of something I don't like, where it's very fast, very thrashy, very aggressive. I get what they're going for, but I don't care for it. Like, for me, in general, not all Slayer songs, but most Slayer songs to me are just sloppy noise. And this sounded like a Slayer song. This just sounded like sloppy noise and didn't appeal to me in the slightest. But the reason I ranked it so low was that, according to the Genius lyrics, they talk about the master race in the song. Not by name in particular, but I guess the song is about the master race. And like, all right, well, more Nazi things. At the bottom you go.
I don't know, man. I'm not a big thrash fan at all. It's just too soft, I guess you could say. And then you also get, I'm just not a big Slayer fan, but man, to call anything Gojira has done sloppy, man, I don't know.
No, this isn't as sloppy as Slayer. This is not as sloppy as Slayer. This is much tighter than Slayer, but it reminds me of those sloppy Slayer songs I don't care for. So it's not, it's very tight. It's very well played. They're in sync with each other very well. It's just, I don't particularly care about what they're doing.
Just Gojira as a live band, man, is one of the few bands, and then you actually get like into even more technical, like metal bands, that almost is better live because they're just so extremely tight. Yeah.
Yeah, I would not doubt the musicianship of this band at all. It's just I don't care for the writing. That's what it comes down to. Is I don't really like the material they compose. They play it very well. I just don't care for what they're playing. Any other thoughts on Backbone before we move on?
I feel like you're giving too much credit to Christian P32 for what these lyrics are actually about.
I mean, no, I understand how lazy I was being with my interpretations, but I'm like, you know what? If I'm going to rank for arbitrary bullshit reasons, like someone ranking the Chrono Trigger soundtrack just in the track order.
Hey, as far as my arbitrary bullshit reasons for ranking things, I stand most by my Chrono Trigger ranking of, there's too many songs. Put them in order.
Right, but at least I put some thought into my arbitrary bullshit ranking system.
I put thought into most of my arbitrary bullshit rankings.
I almost ranked this whole album in order because I was like, you can't take these tracks out of order. But then on like the 3rd or 4th listen, I was like, okay, some are better than others, I guess.
I mean,
yeah,
look,
so if you're gonna chop it up,
we did that for the last concept album we did, and we'll do it again.
Yep. I feel like we came up with a better ordering of songs from The Elder than Kiss did.
Well, I mean, because that story we came up with was amazing, which, by the way, we need to come up with the story based upon the ranking when we get to it.
It's true, we do.
All right, so when we get to the top song, we are going to reconstruct the story of the album in the order of our ranking.
Oh, dear.
All right, so
right.
next up on the list, we have Where Dragons Dwell.
See, this song goes nowhere for me, which is fine. I don't know, man. Where Dragons Dwell conceptually and lyrically, so cool. I mean, and again, what a great great track name. But, like, it just sort of is all mid-tempo and just doesn't pick up or slow down enough to really, I don't know, stand out within itself. They ride the outro really hard. It's kind of one of the weakest. I see. It is. I don't know. It could be from day to day, hit or miss for me. I could hear this outro or hear certain parts of a Gojira song, and it clicks with me. I'm like, oh yeah, loving this. Or another day, I'm like, I don't like it as much. I don't know what it is, but at least on my listens this time, I was like, that outro works.
I mean, I ranked it kind of low because of all the references to dragons and Master Race on this album. So,
but you don't like references to dragons?
Well, no, dragons plus Master Race. I'm like, okay, well, I'm uncomfortable.
Oh, hold on. You're conflating two completely distinct types of white supremacist. There's basically no relationship between the ones who have dragons and the ones who talk about Master Races.
Yeah, no,
or the ones who invented Master Race.
No, I'm being largely facetious with that. My main comments on this song were these lyrics are super nerdy, but without any sense of irony, and so it kind of trolled me.
Where's my drop on that?
Listen to those lyrics, man. It's all about love and longing. Yes, and hobbits too.
See, here's the thing about these lyrics. They're not nerdy enough to be fun, and they're too nerdy for me to take seriously.
Too nerdy to take seriously.
So they're like right in that sweet spot of just Spinal Tapness, where it's like it's not so over the top and campy where I'm just laughing and having a good joke, but it's not. It's in that weird middle ground where I can't take it seriously, and with how brutally heavy it is and how nerdy the lyrics are, it just doesn't work for me at all. Where I want to be like, yeah, where dragons dwell, this has to be sweet. It's like, it's not sweet. I really want it to be sweet. No.
That's about where I'm at. I have it ranked number 8 because I remembered this song being better than I thought it was now, which it's a perfectly acceptable Gojira song, but it doesn't stand out to me.
See, I rank this one second. I love this song. In context of the album, I feel like this is the one that stands out as not fitting on the album, in that, like, you have to force it a little bit to fit into the narrative of this is specifically about pollution. Because, like, my reading of the song is like, you know, the narrator was called upon by people to sort of investigate the monsters that are making their life difficult, and he continued to investigate it, and, like, he said, yes, there are monsters, they are ruining everything, and people spurned him and mocked him. And, you know, I feel like the real interpretation of this is like, this song is about monsters that plague humanity, and those monsters are us. The dragon dwells in each and every one of us. Each of us has a dark cave inside in which an evil dragon lives, and we can't really just slay it. We have to figure out how to defeat it, and we defeat it by being the better, more peaceful, more ecologically conscious people that this album calls us to be.
No, I think it's a great lyrical theme and message. It just maybe that lyric combined with the musicality made it come off as cheesy, but like not cheesy cool. And that's where I think the problem was for me.
Lyrics for me wholly work. So much of the album is about duality of your conscience, where it's like you got this light half, this dark half, and in a sense you gotta tame the dark half and use it for good, as in, like, you know, that's your confidence, that's your ferociousness, and you got to use that for good things. But Where Dragons Dwell, I like what you said, Greg. Musically, like sonically, doesn't work so well for me. It's completely fine and acceptable, but the lyrics I think are super cool.
Yeah, and I think the problem with me in isolation, I think if these lyrics were over a power metal song, I'd be more accepting of it. But hearing it with just the growly vocals, for some reason, for me personally, it's coming off as Spinal Tap.
Literally just take these vocals up 2 octaves and make them clean. I met the dragon in a cave by the mountain. Now I bring the evidence, the beast is alive.
Yeah, and the thing is, I'm not. And Steve and I were talking about.
I would be into a like Dragon Force covering the song. Actually,
Yeah.
That sounds tremendous.
And here's the thing: I'm not necessarily a power metal guy in general. For me, there's a lack of swing to the drumming in that genre too, and I really like my drums to have a little bit of swing to them. But the appeal of power metal versus death metal is that there is still a sense of the word with the M that made Steve take a shot.
I don't. It still counts, Greg. I think.
Sure. So yeah, the thing is, at least with that genre,
It's like 6.
it's less appealing to me than just straightforward rock. But at least melody isn't gone from that genre completely. So that's why I can still like tolerate it, listen to it a little bit more. And so the difference between why I could accept that in a power metal setting versus a death metal setting. But once again, fine lyrics, but just does not work with the music for me personally.
There's been at least 2 songs where Greg, you and I have pretty much agreed completely. So this is kind of surprising me.
Yeah, actually, overall, your ranking of the album is probably closer to Greg's than to mine. It's
interesting.
Sort of interesting.
Yeah, I thought I was going to be like the complete heel of this podcast. And I'm like, I don't want to be the heel. I feel bad.
I mean, you're still the heel.
I'm still the heel.
You're the heel who voted correct.
Apparently.
Other than a couple standouts where like Greg and I are super in agreement. The ones right at the top.
Yeah, maybe the last thing I'd say, not necessarily about the track, but what you were saying, Greg, is that for me, at least at the point in my life where I'm at, where I've been listening to this genre for like a decade plus and just need more, want to find more and branch out. Melodicness, absolutely, like if that's even a word, but having a melody is no longer means catchiness to me. Like it can be completely not melodic at all and be super catchy. And I'm like, I don't know why it's catchy anymore, but I love it. And yeah, that's where I'm at when I'm exploring.
Like
there's rhythmic catchiness.
A hook doesn't always mean a tune. Yeah, there's rhythms that get to you. There's like drum. There's just sounds that enjoy.
And repetition does help. So having like the same thing played twice does help make something a little bit catchier. It's all about how you utilize that repetition. So
cool.
So there can be a song that is entirely like just a drum solo can be catchy. It's all about how they're utilizing repetition and phrasing.
I should play some Abstinence for you, Greg. The industrial band that for much of their music don't use any instruments. Just entirely samples of industrial noise loop.
Sure.
I don't know if you'll enjoy it, but it's fun.
All right.
Well, next up on the list, we have Ocean Planet.
That is my number 1. Nope, number 2. Yeah, that's the intro to the album. And as a 15-year-old, I had no idea what to expect popping this album in my little portable CD player. It blew my mind wide open. I was like, this is my first foray into something which was completely anti-radio play. Like this album would never find mainstream radio play. And I don't know, the reason I almost didn't put it at number 2 for myself on my rankings was because it has kind of a disappointing false start for me, where they go back to what is the intro to the intro, this song. But like overall, the whole song feels uplifting, and then it simultaneously has this plunging heavy depth where they reach so low, like to the bottom of your heels when you're, listening to this with headphones on. And yeah, I love that double time kick pedal. Sorry you don't, Greg. I find that really catchy. It gets fast very quickly and drops out just as quick in the song. Some lyrics. Why do they call me there? How can I fly? I don't feel I could ever swim to them. He's talking about the whales that he's seen fly off away from Earth. And yeah, I can only think of
feel like I can never swim to the worlds.
Burst into tears. They're so close inside, and yet so far away.
We're all such bad death metal vocalists. Yeah. Oh, I got that drop for you.
There's a lot of that in
there is a lot of that in this track.
The ocean planet is in pain. That's a lyric from here. String slide outro. To me, this only Flying Whales above that to spoil my rankings encapsulates the album better. But this is number 2 for a reason, guys, because it's a perfect encapsulation of what they're going for on this album. And I think it revs it up at the right times, as in tempo-wise, and then paces it out by doing a slow section. It's real good. Love Ocean Planet.
I put this one just above the middle, and I think your explanation explains why I put it in the middle, and that it does encapsulate this album, and that makes it right in the middle of this album. Is that there are a couple of songs that just really stand out as more distinct, interesting, because they take more risks. And there's a couple that, stand out as a little more blah and normal, but this is the one that's just like solidly in the middle of this is what Gojira is going for. This is what they do.
This is what they're thinking of this album. Yeah. I think it's a great start to the album. It's really strong opening, in my opinion.
So I ranked it 3rd from the bottom.
Greg did not like this one.
Yeah, so for me...
surprise, surprise.
This album I found was a lot better when I gave it the turbo emo treatment. The last time I listened to it, I just sped up the entire album to double speed, and just was a much more pleasant album. So for me, this was way too slow and plotting. In my notes, I wrote 0 hooks, but the song is stuck in my head now, so that is actually incorrect. It's probably because it's the one I listened to the most because, all right, I'm starting the CD again, and then if I would only get halfway through the CD, I'd start back at the beginning. So I probably listened to this one probably closer to like 10 times.
Oh, no.
So that's why it's stuck in my head. So it does have that going for it. I'm not into the overuse of pinch harmonics. I don't like pinch harmonics in general as a guitar technique.
Yeah, it's a pretty obnoxious technique.
And
I'm willing to forgive it.
But it's a very slow plotting song, and I keep wanting it to just get to the vocals faster than it does. And like, nope, playing the riff again. Are we doing the vocals? Nope, not yet. All right, how about now? No, not quite.
You will wait, Greg.
This totally plays into Gojira, as in they just draw things out. They have long songs, and to some people, I can see that if it's to your taste, that you find the length of like just holding out riffs and like the length of songs in general as plotting. I can see that as being a downside. But if you're into this, you're just like, yeah, keep riding that riff, keep playing this, like drums. Oh man,
yeah,
it's great.
And I get the appeal of that. I mean, I enjoy longer songs too, but I also believe that the great Janie Lane, rest in peace, who helped a little bit with Lipstick One by loaning us his acoustic guitar. Had a great phrase. It was, "Don't bore us, get to the chorus." And
did you just say that a dead guy loaned you his acoustic guitar?
Well, he wasn't dead when he loaned it to us. Like, during the recording of Lipstick One, Janie loaned us his acoustic guitar for Love One Another.
Oh. I thought he died way longer ago.
It took a while for Lipstick One to actually come out on CD.
That's fair.
But, to that point, getting to the hook of the song, and this is a song where it feels like the vocals should have come in sooner. And, that's a nitpick. I think a big problem with a lot of this album for me personally is I had an expectation of what I wanted it to be rather than just accepting it for what it was. And so that's on me. That's not on what they created. That's on me as a listener. And being so used to certain patterns in music of you go this long before the vocals come in, you don't repeat the riff 6 times without any vocals because that is uninteresting to the listener.
Wait a second, that's sounding like they're being progressive.
but for me, progressive also includes like a level of difficulty with the playing. Progressive isn't just like, hey, we were bad at arranging this.
For me, progressive means there's some women in the band. Am I right?
Yeah, that's fair too.
People of color, minorities, yes.
But so the type of drumming on this track is the type of drumming I hate with modern drumming in general, be it in rock or metal. Like this style of drumming, like I said, 0 sense of swing, throws me off when I listen to it. But I think the overall, like, this song has a sonic appeal that I get, where I understand, the term ambient death metal, which I've heard some people use to describe Gojira. Like, yeah, I get it.
Death metal.
I get it, and I think this is, in terms of representing the album, a pretty good track. And, looking at my rankings, because the hooks are so strong, there's a part of me that feels I ranked it too low. But it's, I made the rankings where I was at the time, gut reaction. Didn't care for the track, but hey, it's stuck in my head, so it does have that going for it. But yeah, any other thoughts on Ocean Planet before we move on?
No, not really.
Nope.
All right, so next up on the list, we have World to Come.
Oh, man, this song has that
You're the
lyric.
standout on this one.
World to come. I'm sitting by a lake, but it's not of this earth. Whew. That's just the lyric, I'm sitting by a lake, is, I don't know, I just find it really cringeworthy.
Really? Oh.
Yeah, the next time he says it, I'm living by the ocean. I think that's cool. I don't know why sitting by a lake just sounds, maybe it's the placement in the song, but I don't know. It's okay. This is not what I'm looking for when I'm looking for this type of music, or really Gojira in general, because my opinion, if you guys ever check it out, their next album I think is a perfect encapsulation of what I'm looking for in Gojira, The Way of All Flesh, and it's much heavier than this. This
So
is
Greg won't listen.
I'll give it a shot. I will give it a shot. I'm not going to guarantee I'll like it, but I'll give it a shot. I'll give basically any song like at least one listen. I'll give it a fair shake.
I think the trick with that... oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I don't have anything. Go on, Steve.
Wait, I have a drop for that.
Sorry.
I think the trick with that opening lyric is, in a vacuum, yeah, I could see that being a little bit cheesy. Is like, it is very like straight ahead narrative, but in the context of this album, where the whole album is sort of setting up just like he's foreseen the destruction of everything that anyone cares about, and the more optimistic, like, maybe there is another solution, maybe we don't have to destroy ourselves and destroy this world. Like, in the context of that, these lyrics, like, they just fit into that story. And this is a much calmer, much cleaner part of the album than much of the rest of it. Like, following up from In the Wilderness, where it's just like, and then it gets to this where it's like, I'm sitting by a lake, but it's not of the earth, where he's much more tuneful with his growls in this one than he had just been, and the guitars are cleaner, and it's just calmer and, less death metal right now.
I was gonna say, so totally not what I'm looking for, but
Yeah,
I don't know,
that's-
man.
That's fair. I'm all about contrast. It's dynamics. Dynamics are what really make heavy metal work. Like, I'm with Greg in that straight blast beats all the time are kind of awful. I listened to this album probably 3 times this week, because normally...
So I listened to it more this week than you did.
Normally when we do one of these albums...
About 5 to 6, yeah.
Normally I will listen to an album once in preparation for an episode that we do. If it's an album that I know really well, I'll listen to it once because I know the album really well, so I just need to sort of refresh myself. This was one of the few that, like, Greg was complaining at me. I was like, I hate this album. So I was like, listen to this album. And then I was like, all right, I'm going to listen to it again because I've got the CD in my car. And then I finally listened to it a third time to actually do the ranking. And I think one of those times that I was listening to it, the blast beats really started to stick out to me. It's like, I can see Greg doesn't do the blast beat thing, and I also don't really like the blast beats. It's a little bit distracting. I think the kick drum is like all about the notes you don't play. If you're playing the bass line of a kick drum is you're playing straight eighths, and then you just drop most of those eighth notes and get something cool.
Yeah, I'm just so used to death metal where the kick pedal is like driving the song, and it is like the lifeblood of like it's your heart pumping to that tempo, like 1,000 miles per hour, and I don't know.
Yeah, straight eighths, and on the kick, the 2 and 4 on the snare, and then whatever crashes on every quarter note. I get that that's the metal thing, but when that starts happening, I'm like, okay. Please change this soon, though, because this is kind of boring.
Yeah, I'm not a musician, and to me, when I see, because I go to a lot of concerts, that's what I'm like listening and moving to, banging my head to would be the drums. So I gotta love when they, throw out the like billion miles per hour like kick pedal, and I'm banging my head to half that speed, if not a quarter, because
you just can't keep up. I love bursts of that, like just 2 to 4 measures of just like as the dynamic contrast. I'm like, yes, it's so loud, and then we get back into a groove.
Yeah, I mean, I can appreciate it as a accent or as like a bridge to something else, but when it's just, I think it's the kind of thing where you can very quickly use too much of it. It's like pepper. You want some pepper, but you don't want it to be so much pepper that you lose the flavor of what was there originally.
And that's where you've lost me, Greg. You can never have too many peppers.
That's fair. Find some other analogy for that.
Says the guy who I've determined that I can do up to 3 million Scoville units of just like whatever I'm eating before I start to have a cardiac event. So that's my limit.
So my notes on this song. So Steve and I have a joke punk band called Snake Vomit, where we don't practice or write songs. What we do is we get together and write down a bunch of joke song titles on a napkin, and then when we play a show, we make sure we're all out of tune. Our singer shouts out the song title, and we improvise for about 10 seconds and try to play as terribly as possible.
We're like AXCX without talent.
But the problem is we're all pop musicians, so it still ends up accidentally being catchy. But we'll do our best to, like, play the song intentionally incorrect. And so the intro of this song reminds me of Snake Vomit, where it sounds like they're playing the riff incorrectly. Because, like, music theory-wise, you should go to this chord, but you're going to this other one that sounds ugly and awkward and out of place.
Wait, we're still talking about World to Come, right? With
yes.
Yeah, I didn't like it.
Wow.
Yeah, so it sounds like they played it wrong, but because it reminded me of Snake Vomit, I ranked it pretty high in the ranking.
What?
Because it reminded me of something I do very high. Yeah.
Well, as I'm ranking for arbitrary bullshit reasons, like, this reminds me of our joke punk band. Sure, why not?
Terrible.
To the top.
Not to the top, but, higher up than a lot of the other songs I had no reason to rank higher up.
He's just a poor kid from the stupid ages.
Sure.
Many of my drops, I added a whole bunch of drops from Futurama this past week, and I don't remember what they all are. Also, I'm 6 shots in, so everything's a little bit difficult, and the names are getting cut off because they're too long, so I'm largely guessing when I try to insult Greg with,
all sorts of troubles.
This brings back a lot of memories.
Keep them to yourself, Pops.
What a great drop, Steve. Steve, you're drunk. Go home. Oh, wait, you are home. That's
I am
good.
home.
I love how you're going to be hungover for work tomorrow just because we talked about Gojira. And like, Greg's complaining about melody again.
There's nothing more metal.
There's nothing more metal than straggling into work hungover.
Yep. For me, it's always go to a concert and the next day you're in a little bit of pain, but for some reason at the age I'm at, which I'm only 27, guys, but I've been to a lot of shows, it's always day 2. where I cannot move my neck from side to side, and I'm in a lot of pain. But day 2, like, your voice is all raspy.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Right about 27 was when I got too lazy to headbang anymore. That was when I was like, no, I'm going to move my entire body. That's one of the reasons I like complicated syncopated rhythms in live music rather than straight heavy kicks, is because I can just like spastically jerk my body without a sense of rhythm, because there's that complicated groove that nobody can dance to.
Mostly I'm moving my whole back, because you're right. If you're just moving your neck, it's like I'm done after just a few songs.
And see, me, I like disco, so I want to shake my ass. So all this weird, complicated shit. I'm like, what are you doing?
Greg's
I can't dance to this.
Greg's at the Gojira show, just like frantically twerking.
I was like, man, this doesn't sound like I was made for loving you at all.
Man, for me, the experience of the one time I went to a Gojira show, I just barely got my license around the age of 16, and we're like pushed up against the rails. I just happened to look back. I happened to take my eyes off the band that I was like worshiping at the moment, but I look back and the pit was like right behind us, so I was getting some elbows to the back sometimes. The dude that's like in the middle of the pit being like lit up sporadically by the lights on the stage, just bleeding from his nose, and I'm like, oh my gosh. I didn't look back again after that, so that was my Gojira.
As somebody who has always worn glasses, no matter how heavy the metal I go to, I can never be the guy who's just like hurling himself into the pit. Because there's always the part of me that's like, I need to make sure that I protect my glasses. Because if my glasses get broken, I'm done. I can't do my job. I have to go to work and sit 6 inches from the screen until I get new glasses.
I never got into pits because I just kind of thought they were dumb. Like, so wait, you're just going to like beat up each other for no reason?
Ska pits. Ska pits are super fun.
Ska pits are fun.
Because it's everybody just like, everybody's enthusiastically dancing and you bump into each other, but everybody's friends.
Right.
So if you bump into somebody, if you knock somebody over, immediately everyone steps back, makes room, helps them get back on their feet, and then you get back to dancing. And sure, everyone's shoving each other.
But a lot of metal pits, if someone falls, they'll pick them up. So I don't think that's exclusive to ska. But yeah, metal pits in general seem to be more violent. And just for me, as a happy-go-lucky guy who also got into legitimate fights, like, wait, so this isn't even a good fight. You guys are just bumping into each other, punching people in the face, and then you're like not, countering with a sweep kick. This is lame.
Right. If somebody's bleeding in a metal pit, that's awesome. If somebody's bleeding in a ska pit, hold on. We need to make sure nobody's hurt.
See, and exactly, I've never been a fan of the pit. I respect it, and I look onto it with awe and reverence. But then, I'm there to see the band. I don't want to be.
I'm not there to be hospitalized.
Pretty much exactly.
I like the pit, ironically, where I'll make jokes about it. I love the jokes I can make about mosh pits more than any actual mosh pits.
If any show that Greg and I go to together, he will attempt to start a mosh pit with me. The more inappropriate it is, the more enthusiastic he is about, Steve, we need to mosh. I'm like, Greg, this is a singer-songwriter. She really doesn't want us to mosh. She just wants us to listen to her song.
And I'm like, no, open up the pit at this coffee shop.
Open up the pit.
Let's get this pit open. And the baristas are just trying to stop us.
Sounds very entertaining, guys.
I mean, I do glam rock, so my goal musically, 90% of the time, is to troll as hard as possible.
If nobody's mad at the end of whatever's happening, Greg feels he's failed.
Yep.
Yeah, sound like a showman.
Did you say sounds like a shonen?
A showman.
I have more Goku drops, though.
Now you're talking!
Oh, show me.
So, do we need to write a song called Shonen Showman?
Maybe.
Write that down.
I'm not writing anything down.
Have to be about friendship.
I mean, we do have songs about how great friendship is.
We value friendship very fundamentally in this project.
We have been described by certain fans as shonen glam. So, I guess that's a thing. But yeah, let's get to the number 2 song on this album. Coming in as the second best song on the album, we have Global Warming.
I'm trying to... Oh, wow. It's third from the bottom for me.
Yeah, you're the one who ruined this one, actually. Greg and I both agreed that this is one of the best songs on the album. You said there's only 2 songs that you like would add to the playlist, right, Greg?
Yeah, so this would be added to the playlist.
This is one of them. I rank this as the number one. I love this song. Have you seen them play this one live?
I can't remember. I was like 16, so it was 10 plus years ago, but I'm pretty sure they would have. And I don't know. I used to love the song. I still do at times. It just depends on my mood. Sometimes, man, and especially having to listen to this album or needing to listen to this album, enjoying it for our rankings. This one just got to me, man. That something about the guitar tone, because I do like the riff, and I like the outro ending where he kind of has variations on that riff, but like I was done with it. I'm glad you guys.
My notes say a much better guitar tone than the rest of the album.
So they might not have done this one when you saw them, because I think this was one of the ones that they didn't do live for a long time because they described it as sort of too complicated to do live. But there are videos of them like in studios doing it, and just like watching them pull this off, like as a cohesive unit live, shows how tight they were.
Well, I could tell when he's doing the riff at the beginning of the song that he was barely able to do it. I mean, it's there. He's got it captured for the song, but like, he's barely holding it together, it sounds like. Yeah.
Yeah, this track had the second best drumming on the album, aside from Unicorn, which was the best drumming on the album.
Oh yeah, with sort of the flangings, the snare flares.
Yeah, I mean this also had a
what's the word? It starts with something.
I don't know.
Flamberts.
A flanger?
No, flanger is an effect. There's a snare technique where you do the sort of rolls with the accents.
Oh yeah. I'm blanking on it, but I'll say this has a lot more. Drinking. Has a lot more swing to the drums than a lot of the other tracks, which is, why it appeals to me. I think the vocals are really good on this track. The mixture of the clean and growl vocals are done really well, where there's like some nice harmonies and layers to them. The riffs are still not blowing me away. But in terms of a track I can sit down and listen to and just enjoy, like with actual lyrics and not just Unicorn. I mean, the lyrics are very on the nose.
I mean, you get the. This would be one of those ones you identify this as prog, right? With those triplet patterns throughout so much of it.
Yeah, I would say it's not necessarily impressive prog, but I would recognize this as prog much more than the rest of the album. The rest of the album I wouldn't really call prog. I would say, yeah, this is like the simple prog song the band does.
Well, I think that's an important distinction with a lot of prog metal, is that it's not necessarily complicated patterns structurally, but they are difficult patterns physically.
Yeah, and I get that. I think like I said, this is my number 2 song on the album. I think it's worthy of adding onto the playlist. I think this is a song that you could have most people with like a wide musical palette could listen to and say, yeah, that's a good song. Even someone like me who is not into this band overall, who's not into the genre overall, can say, yeah, that's a good song. I'd be willing to listen to it over and over again. If it shows up on a playlist, yeah, I probably won't skip it. So, there's something to be said about a track that I sincerely enjoy off this album. Although I will say the ending felt very Spinal Tap to me, where I did burst out laughing the first time I heard it.
Greg, we will see our children growing.
And then
we will see our children growing.
Where it gets like really quiet at the end, like, guys, this was really deep. And
our children
it made
growing.
me burst out laughing. I laughed when I first heard it. It was like,
oh, yeah.
I unironically love that section.
Yeah, but you know
Such
what?
Such a good build.
If I would rather laugh at something and not take it seriously than just think it's bad. So there you go. I enjoyed this track.
I would say 50% of the time I do as well. I don't know. Like there has been time.
Look, I just like Gojira more than you, dude. It's okay.
Oh man,
he says this to me all the time about the Smashing Pumpkins.
In his CD player in his car for like probably a year straight. So yeah. I don't know, maybe not this album, but definitely Gojira. Yeah.
So most of the albums that I own that we do on this show, Greg will go to my CD stack and he will take the CD and put it in his car. This is the one so far that he didn't even do that. He just YouTubed it instead.
I was meaning to take it, but I just forgot the last time I was over because I think we had like a bunch going on that day and just got really busy, and so that's just my bad on not grabbing it. I meant to get it, but I didn't.
Sounds like an excuse. No, I'm just kidding.
He's just like, I don't even want to have this CD on hand.
No, I wanted to have it on hand to listen to in the car, and that's me dropping the ball. But I made sure to listen to it, my minimum number of times, which is at least 4 times for the podcast, is my minimum. So going up to the 6 times, because I'm gonna, I'll call it 5.5 because Turbo Emo, I'll count that as just as a half time.
I mean, Turbo Emo is theoretically 50% speed, so that's 2/3 of the time.
Right. So, but I made sure to listen to it enough times to really let it sink in. So I made sure to do that at least. And hey, global warming, despite having one of the lamer song titles on the album,
it's one of the more on the nose song titles.
Like, it's a good song, and I can say that if I'm recommending a Gojira track to someone, I'm probably not recommending it because that's not what they're looking for in the band. But I enjoy it. I sincerely enjoyed this track, and I like that I can say positive things about it and not complain and nitpick and just say, yeah, it's good.
An actual track that you enjoy, because Unicorn is kind of an interlude. But all right,
Unicorn is great, sir. That is a fantastic track.
I mean, depending on who you're talking to, like the epic album closer. If you're trying to convince somebody to give a band a chance, like really the 2 first songs you should recommend should be the big single and the epic album closer. So,
I mean, that's
if you're
fair.
trying to turn somebody on to Gojira, this is a good choice.
It's also, you have to, figure out what their tastes are.
It's true.
Because, I one of the things I, in vain would try to do in high school is convince my friends that Kiss was a good band. And they all had the preconceived notion about what Kiss was. Mm-hmm. And the trick...
I did that with metal, and it didn't work.
Did that with who?
So I did that with metal, trying to convince people, like, hey, you should listen to this, and they hated it, so I stopped after a while. But yeah, I feel you, Greg.
The trick I found with Kiss is that if I didn't tell them it was Kiss, they liked it because the band has a lot of variety in the catalog. So I would play someone's songs from the Gene Simmons 78 solo album, and they'd be like, yeah, this is really good. And then as soon as they find out it's Kiss, well, actually, it's terrible, and I hate it.
Wait, really? You started people the Gene Simmons 78 solo album?
With certain cuts, like Mr. Make-Believe, like those Beatlesy songs.
Yeah, so like the best Kiss album?
And then people would like it when they were listening to it and then think it was terrible. Or I'd have them listen to the Kiss Grunge album and they'd be like, yeah, this is heavy and brutal. This is sick. And then I'd tell them it's Kiss. Well, actually, it's just not that heavy. It's really kind of shitty. So basically, anytime someone found out they were listening to Kiss, they didn't like it. But if I told them it was some other band, they're like, yeah, this is a pretty good band. I should get a CD of this. But I think that more just speaks to people being closed-minded musically.
But Paul Stanley's dick. Now this girl's gonna get some of his dick.
Exactly. But what I'll say about this track in particular, this is really refreshing because I think when a band has variety in their catalog, there can be something that can appeal to people of different tastes. So me, who doesn't generally like this kind of music, can enjoy this song, can gravitate towards it. And if there are other cuts in the catalog like this, I might not like Gojira as a whole, but I might like 10 or 15 Gojira songs that would get on the playlist. And I think that's the great thing about a band with a diverse catalog with different textures to their sound. And one of my overall complaints with the album was that I didn't think there were enough textures and differences overall on the album. But this track worked for me, and I would recommend it to other people with similar tastes of my own.
Cool. Final thing I'd say about your trying to introduce people to Kiss and my trying to introduce people to metal in general. I think both have a certain stigma attached to them, where you're right. People without any like knowing what it is, they can accept it and kind of like it. And then the second you tell them what it is, aka Kiss, or this is metal, and they're like, oh, I don't like metal, so I don't like this, or I don't like Kiss, so I definitely can't like this. And it's unfortunate, you know.
I think the difference between the two approaches is, I think the stuff I would do would sound drastically different than what people normally associate with Kiss. And so I would try to appeal based upon their individual tastes. So when you were pitching people with metal, were you picking songs that didn't sound like most of the band's catalog, or was it representative of what they did overall?
It was mostly metalcore, where you got the clean singing, and so are more melodic parts. And they would be like, "Oh, this sounds kind of like, you know," because I mean, a lot of metalcore could get radio play. They're like, "This is just a little bit heavier than what I already, you know, like musically." And then the second you apply the term metalcore to it, which is what it is, they, you know, shun it or embrace it and go, or embrace it and say, hey, I might like this type of music. But more often than not, that was not the case.
See, metalcore was what got me into extreme metal. Like, I wasn't really listening to heavy music, and then for whatever reason, Sky Eats Airplane just really clicked. I did a Pandora station with them, and that like got me in the whole world of, maybe you want to try Genghis Tron, and yes, I want to try Genghis Tron.
See, man, mine was all the mainstream stuff getting play on like Fuse or other cable channels, whatever. But like Atreyu, Killswitch Engage, Trivium, stuff like that was just like, oh, you know, I'm sort of into this. And then like I just didn't. I don't know. I was growing out of the melodic singing parts where I'm like, you know, I just want just the heavy. And that's when you get more extreme. Yeah. But yeah.
I went to Ozfest once, and I was just like, instead of wearing a band shirt, I just Sharpied Atreyu can lick my salty metal balls spelled with an umlaut. And it was just so amazing to walk around and collect angry glares from emo kids.
That's tremendous, dude.
I got two picks for Atreyu, and that would be A Death Grip on Yesterday. My opinion, a perfect album. It's not very long, so that one's digestible at least. That's an Atreyu album, A Death Grip on Yesterday, or their best of. Anything else, I could take it or leave it. But yeah, I got two dogs in the game for saying that Atreyu is a decent band. But everything else, I'm like, yeah, you know, it's not that great.
I was really just there to see Ozzy and System, both of whom were a ton of fun. Yeah, wow. System was great live. Ozzy was a lot of fun to see live just because there was no room in the pit, so it's just everybody's just standing there like trying to stay upright. And he was he was completely off key for the first 3 songs and then clearly started lip syncing after that. It's like, oh, okay, you turned on the tracks. But you know what? You tried. You tried to do it live first, Ozzy, and you're like a million years old and have Parkinson's. So good on you.
Wow. I can only imagine when did you see him then, and now he's on his final tour. So
right, that was like 2006.
Oh gosh, so he's probably all lip syncing now. Who knows? He might have picked up his game, but yeah, wow, it's amazing.
Just for general commentary, for what it's worth, not super into System of a Down. Like a couple songs. Ozzy's great, but I'm into dad rock, so shock.
Granddad rock at this point.
Right?
Man, you're disrespecting System of a Down. All right. We can't be friends, man.
They put on such a good live show.
I didn't disrespect them. I just said I'm not super into them, but I think a couple songs are okay. It's not really...
All right.
That's not like throwing shade. It's just saying like, hey, yeah, they're all right. Not my thing, but I like a couple songs.
All right. I'll take.
We'll let it slide this time, Greg.
We'll take you into the pit
Gregory.
Next.
So, let's as we go through this ranking from the bottom to the top, let's construct this narrative, and we won't reveal the number 1 song until we figure out this narrative.
Oh no, I hit the wrong button.
No, it doesn't matter.
It's okay. I was trying to do the drum roll too early.
Yeah. Well, okay. So, Too Serious. What happens in this song?
This whole, taking this whole album out of context is like crazy to me.
Yeah, so let's do this. All right, Too Serious. Is that the? So there's a whale, and
I mean, Too Serious represents like peace and a higher place of existence.
All right, so it starts off with a whale who is in a peaceful, higher place of existence, but then a unicorn comes and fucks shit up.
Starts a war with it from
Starts
Mars.
a war with it from
Mars represents war.
And they're battling in the wilderness.
They destroy the entire world.
Right.
The world is a barren landscape now. And from the sky comes a black hole.
Yeah, which is the heaviest matter in the universe.
The heaviest matter in the universe, from which emerge dragons.
Well, no, Backbone is next.
Oh, you're right. Sorry. Oh, shoot.
Gotta bring your backbone to prepare for them. I don't know.
Some creature emerges, which is just this most unbreakable thing ever, and it turns out it's a dragon.
Okay, sure. And then they go to the ocean planet to continue fighting?
I guess they're probably still on the same planet. It's just gradually becoming ocean just because everything's messed up from the heaviest matter in the universe crashing into it after it was devastated.
Following.
Maybe the oceans rise and drown the dragons.
Is that so? Are we just like combining world to come and global warming?
No, and then world to come is just like verdantness arises from the oceans after everything terrible has been drowned.
Okay.
This is sounding very apocalyptic.
I mean, have you listened to the album?
I was about to say, yeah, just like the album.
And then
even out of order, we can't make this not like Doomsday.
I mean, out of order, it's still kind of working like the narrative of the album.
And then global warming, I guess the planet still continues to warm as verdant life emerges from the ocean and begins putting too much carbon dioxide into the atmosphere.
I was going to say, because how else did the dragons drown? Because they do have wings, correct? So they had to have been choked and fall into the ocean, the rising ocean.
Yep, but then one species attempts to escape, a la the Hitchhiker's Guide dolphins, in the best song on this album, according to this panel.
Flying whales.
Flying freaking whales. Perfect encapsulation of From Mars to Sirius. Such a good song. Oh my gosh, smooth, jammy intro. That initial drop into heavy, though, these are my notes. Tempo changes are very organic and seem to play to his vocals, unlike, I don't know, a couple other songs on this album for me. It's just catchy as hell, man. Multiple times, everything cuts out in the song except perhaps the drums and the guitar. The guitar, especially, like sometimes it's there and it's beautiful and it's all stands on its own. Whereas a second before, they were like crushing you. Somewhat jamming guitar in the middle with beautiful soft cymbals. Like, this is the song that they still play to this day live. They'll play it all the time because like it's so great. And always their bassist, Alex, I believe is his name, he will like spin on stage, and when he headbangs, he puts his whole back into it, and he does that very often in spite of always having had short hair. So somehow this man is always pulling off with like just a short haircut, full-on headbang with his entire back thrown into it. Great stage presence. The song's the whole package, and I can totally agree with both of you as to why it's number one, because it's my number one.
So here's the trick: is you totally decided that is the way we rank things is that if two, it's just a straight point based on where you ranked things in order. So and then if there's a tie, whichever one has like the lowest scores from any single person is the one that gets ranked below it. So you're the one who settled between this one and global warming, and that Greg and I both ranked global warming in our top two, and you ranked it third from the bottom, and then Greg and I both ranked flying whales pretty in the middle, and you ranked it number one, and the two tied.
Yeah, so that the way so the math worked
neither of us disliked flying whales, so between the two, global warming got ranked lower.
Yeah, so I only gave this 6 points. Steve gave it 8. You gave it 12. Versus the song right below this, 11 points from me, 12 from Steve, 3 from you. But because you gave it that 3, that's why it lost the tie.
Yep.
See, and that's what's crazy is initially on my first 2, possibly 3 listens through this album for our rankings, I was putting it in the middle, and I was just gonna stick all the heavy stuff at the top because that's what I'm into nowadays. But then I'm like, you know what? This is what Gojira is trying to do with this album. So this is the best example of it. And also, I kept listening to Flying Whales and forgetting what was in the song because it has such a possibly you could say deceptive intro because it's so, airy and light and the whales and everything, but then it goes into this heavy, and I was like, okay, it's at the top because it's the best.
Yeah, this one it starts with the whale noises and then
So speaking of forgetting what's in this song, I honestly don't remember what this one sounds like.
Now I can see the whales!
So my notes on this track are 7 songs in, I realized this is a concept album because I can't distinguish the lyrics and I wasn't looking at Wikipedia. So I'm just like, all right. Oh, it's a concept album and not just a whale motif on multiple songs. There's a narrative. And then my notes say nothing like a narrative-driven album where all the words are indistinguishable growls, and then the Stradivarius Dolphin album is better, are my notes on this track.
Man.
That is all I have to say about this.
Greg.
I don't know, man. You can't make comparisons. That's all I'm saying.
Look, they're both metal albums with flying marine mammals on the cover.
And that makes them exactly equivalent.
It's true.
I mean, that makes them enough for me to compare them. Both have clicky drums that I'm not into. It's just one of them is catchy as hell.
Both are popular fruit that grows from a tree and is harvested during certain seasons. Apples and oranges are eminently comparable.
I mean, how many other metal albums can you think of with aquatic marine mammals on the cover?
Oh, maybe not on the cover.
Through the air.
There is an album by a band called The Ocean that I really enjoy, and it's I'll have to look up whatever. I won't get it this time, the name of the album. But yeah, there's a surprising correlation between metal progressive bands and obsession with ocean life or just the ocean in general.
There's that Secret and Whisper album, Great White, which it features a white whale in a cage on the cover, but the cage is suspended and nothing, so that's kind of like flying.
Also, they both came out in the same decade. So the Stradivarius album came out first. So as far as comparing, like, hey, here's 2 metal bands with flying ocean mammals on the cover of their albums. So yeah,
and then
that's why I compare them. No, musically they're incredibly different. Like, that's why one I really enjoy and one I didn't enjoy as much.
Oh, the Secret and Whisper album came out in like 2007, I guess, or 2010. So they also post-date those, but yeah, it's I guess it's a common-ish thing.
But yeah, my comparison is largely facetious just for the joke. I don't remember what the song sounds like. I didn't really like it that much.
Now I can see the whales coming out of the dark.
Something like that, yeah.
I mean, I do appreciate.
I figured I would sing it without the growls so that Greg would recognize the melody a little better.
Oh yeah, totally worked. So what I'll say about this in terms of a concept for an album, I do love how goofy it is. Like, all right, flying whales. You know what? Yeah, I'm cool with it. And the thing is, I actually really like the art direction. I love the cover. I love the concept of the story. I like the whale motif. Like, the whale sounds are pleasant. And I think, Unicorn is very pleasant, as is Global Warming as songs. So there's a lot of things.
Global Warming, very pleasant. Greg, 2018.
As a song. Like, what I'll compare it to is the Smashing Pumpkins album Adore. I hate the art direction of that album. I hate the cover. I hate the vibe of the art. But
have you seen the full cover where it's a rose, her dress?
Well, that's the original cover. It's just in black and white, exactly. I think.
Yeah. So I'm saying I don't like it.
Greg ranked Darcy's nipples pretty low.
But I loved that album, and I think it's a great album. And so this is like, I love all the individual ideas here. Like, I love the concept, and I think it's a cool cover. I like a lot of the direction they're going, but it just comes down to a sincere dislike of the music, primarily due to the vocals and the drum. I think I could live with that kind of guitar playing if I had a more melodic vocal or drums with more swing to them, but those two together are too big of dings against it for me to sincerely enjoy most of the music. I could handle one of those two things, but not both of them together.
I was about to say, how many shots is this?
That's at least 7.
Wow. You are a soldier.
We've been talking for a long time, and I made sure to get a fairly low-proof whiskey for this project.
Yeah, I had no idea.
But it has been gradually catching up with me throughout this entire...
I had no idea you were planning on doing this when we started this episode. I thought to myself, I'm going to do a CD that Steve likes, so we're not just doing, old R&B and Japanese metal that Greg is into. Let me try and balance it out, put some more Steve albums into the queue. I didn't know it was going to drive you to drink. I'm sorry.
Gojira, I was like, I appreciate that you guys are having me on, but wow, you guys are really branching out for your podcast, because I was like, Gojira, I just didn't see where that fit, but I love
this band. I think this is a brilliant album. Every track on it is amazing. And I've never heard a Gojira song that I don't like.
And I think it's important for us to branch out and to try different things and, try to listen to it as objectively as we can. I mean, there's our preconceived biases and things we like and don't like, pretty consistently. Steve and I have talked about, one of the things that doesn't work with a rap for me is that there's a lack of melody. I generally need melody in my music.
Vocal melody specifically. Because if we're talking about death metal, there's a lot of melodic death metal where it's very melodic guitars.
What I would say is the melody typically needs to be the driving force in whatever music I'm listening to. And so...
the rhythm being the driving force rarely works for you.
Right. Sometimes it does.
Especially if there's vocals.
Right. Sometimes the rhythm being a driving force does work for me. But overall, that's just not what I'm into. But I will say I'm glad I listened to this album. I'm glad I gave it a shot. And it's made me...
Too many shots, Greg.
Too many shots. But what I'm saying is this has made me really dissecting it and taking the time to listen to it critically has made me appreciate this kind of music more, where, yes, I still don't like it. I still don't find it to have merit for what I want to do musically. It's not appealing to me on most musical levels. But I could see myself growing to listen to more of this kind of stuff. So if we did more albums like this, and then I revisited this Gojira album, I could see myself liking it quite a bit more. I can see this being an acquired taste, but present day, based upon the musical experiences I have in the realms of classical, in the realm of jazz, in the realm of rock, and the realm of metal, old school metal, this does not appeal to me overall.
Next week, we're doing Enter Shikari Takes to the Sky just to annoy Greg.
I'll have to introduce myself to that. No idea, man. No idea. All right.
So yeah, hopefully I wasn't too disappointing to you with my opinions on this album.
Well, you can take it or leave it, man. I'm gonna love it forever. It's the reason I've been able to get into many of the bands and types of music that I love to this day. Without this album, I wouldn't be able to access that, because I wouldn't have been basically, honestly, hardened to what this genre entails. Yeah. And this album allowed me to really be able to appreciate, and kind of what you said, Greg, just understand what I'm listening to even deeper than this, because because it's half heavy and half somehow strangely triumphant and beautiful is what Gojira can pull off. That was accessible to me enough that I was able to get past this and access even heavier and heavier and heavier stuff, to the point where, I don't know, I can listen to just about anything nowadays and be able to at least appreciate it if I don't love it, and Gojira's the reason I'm able to do that. So love the guys, and fully agree with you, Steve, where I don't think they've had a bad song. Stranded off their newest album, Magma, is probably my least favorite, which is why I had a hard time getting into that album. But other than that, that whole album, which only came out last year, I believe, is really, really great.
Is it really that recently?
Yeah. Oh, it was like, maybe it was further back. It might have been a year or two ago, but it feels very recent to me because I don't know, I don't listen to Gojira very much anymore. You guys really made me dust off this CD and find like, oh yeah.
And I will say, I do agree with your assessment about Gojira sounding triumphant with what they do. Even me, who's not super into the music, I can recognize that quality. So I absolutely do agree with that assessment.
And a lot of people have kind of analyzed this or given their critique of the album and Gojira in general. Words they used to describe Gojira as hypnotic, like transcendental even, and meditative, because you kind of get put in this like headspace with them where they just ride a groove for so long, whether it be really heavy or, you know, the beauty that Gojira can muster up. And it's like you're in a trance. And that's what they do. That's what they do very, very well. And this is the beginning of them being able to do that. And I believe they have 3 albums after this. They only get better and better at it, in my opinion.
So I program for my day job, and they recommend the best music to listen to when programming in order to keep your mind in the right space to be most productive is ambient electronica, which isn't really my shtick, but I've found that ambient metal accomplishes the same thing very well. Like the sort of thing where it's just like a really solid groove, or like black metal works really well for this too, and post-metal doom kind of stuff. Just loud.
That would have been a strange comparison for me if I hadn't really thought about what Gojira were like, what they were bringing, I don't know the word, but what they were bringing forth with their music. But you're right, it's the only other time I've heard a type of what they're getting at sonically is in like house, electronic, whatever, where they ride this same noise, whatever they're, you know, making musically for so long that like you might have not been totally into it, but you've heard it so many times repeated that you kind of start getting it. And it means something different after the like 2 minutes of listening to the same thing on repeat.
You guys have clearly never heard of the Grateful Dead.
It's just a pattern that it's a repeated pattern that puts you in a good zone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally.
Grateful Dead. I guess. Jam bands.
Grateful Dead, Fish.
I need to be a little heavier. I need it to be like slightly scary.
But actually, what I'll say is, in comparison to those bands, what I actually enjoy Grateful Dead and Fish, but my annoyance with them is that live they do sort of that same riff over and over again and get you into that hypnotic state. That's not what I look for in music. I like my music to grab my attention. I don't like it to be background, I guess. I want to really focus in on it. And so what I like is when in the studio, they take those songs and they're like 2-minute pop songs. I'm like, yes, that's what I want from Grateful Dead and Fish, is to just cut out the jamming and get straight to the pop hooks. And so something that's a bit more hypnotic and trance-like just doesn't work for me overall.
Dude, with Gojira, you get the best of both worlds. You get the hypnotizing, meditative part, and then they like bring in the heavy that snaps you back to attention, and you're like, you know, back in the pit. Yeah.
They had this whole groove going on. Now they're just super loud.
Now they're extremely heavy, catchy. Yeah, rhythmically, like you were saying.
Punching me in the face.
That's what I need. That is what I need for my music, is to be punched in the face.
Yep. I should have picked up more Death Clock drops for this. I've only got like.
That would have been good.
Taking it easy.
Oh, Murderface.
Oh,
Murderface. Murderface.
We have found out that you could just, buy psychological validations.
Oh, I just barely bought season 1, and it's brilliant. Yeah.
Yeah, that show's so good. It was weird that like when that show was running, Death Clock was probably the best death metal band active at the time.
I missed so many times being able to see Death Clock and Mastodon pairing live. Like, they toured a lot.
Oh, yeah.
And I just barely missed the opportunity to see them. And now, if you guys are anyone listening loves or knows of Death Clock and is like, oh, I was kind of into them. Now their singer / like basically the head of the band that creates everything with it, he can no longer use the Death Clock moniker. So now he's done 1 or 2 albums under the title. I believe the band's called Galacticon.
Yeah.
And that's what you got to look up nowadays in order to get your Death Clock fix.
Was that for legal reasons? I thought that was just he wanted to keep on making death metal, but like it didn't make sense artistically to have it be as Death Clock.
There was like a video that Adult Swim put out of fans' requests to bring back Death Clock, and the video was just on repeat. All of these requests having been printed out, and Adult Swim was putting them through a paper shredder. And so, yeah, Death Clock is done. We're never getting any more Death Clock, unfortunately. But I don't know if it was for legal reasons, but it's unfortunate because we need more metal, like in the mainstream pop culture television shows or like movies, whether it be horror, which is pretty much the only way you can get away with a metal movie. But I just like when it reaches, when it even skirts pop culture mainstream, because I want more people to be aware of it.
I feel like Metalocalypse, they really jumped the shark with their concept album. Like the first 4 seasons were just great, but then they had that whole thing with like Toki being kidnapped, and there just weren't any jokes.
I haven't even seen later seasons of it, and you're making me really trepidatious in getting into that.
So all of the proper seasons are great, and then the last season ends with a sort of a cliffhanger, and that sets up their concept album, the Doom Clock Requiem or something like that, which sort of resolves most of the dangling plot threads, and it's not particularly good. I don't actually recommend it, but if you enjoyed Metalocalypse, you should watch it just for that sense of closure. And then, buy Death Album 1 through 3 and just recognize that that's all of Death Clock that is.
Yeah, I like 2 Death Clock albums, so...
Are they 1 and 2, or are they 2 and 3?
1 and 3, probably.
Oh, yeah?
I don't know.
I like the Dr. Roxo songs.
Death Album 2 has a lot of great stuff on it. Like Mermaider Part 2 is great, and there's a lot of amazing stuff on there. I only actually own Death Album 1, but I need to get the other. I'm not going to get the Doom Clock Requiem because it doesn't have enough songs.
Yeah, I haven't even heard that, so I wouldn't be able to tell you, but cool.
Well,
that was a bit of a tangent.
Yeah,
should we do plugs?
Yeah, so that is our episode. Drew, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much,
Drew. Next time, guys. I think if I ever come on again, it could probably be shorter because we won't be introducing ourselves, amongst each other. But yeah, you can look up the Godzilla Podcast. That's where I'm at. And we're currently working on getting another podcast out, my friend Anthony and I, called Optic Digest. We own the domain name. We've created accounts across all social media. We have 2 episodes recorded, not put out yet, but look up Optic Digest, where we talk about movies. And the Godzilla Podcast has been going on for a few years, guys. So check that out. And I'm really proud of the work Joe and I have done in it. I think it's really good. So if you're into Godzilla movies and want to hear some behind-the-scenes stuff, we do commentaries on those. Even if you haven't ever watched a Godzilla movie, it could be entertaining. Check it out. It's the Godzilla Podcast.
And I will say this, even without introductions, these episodes are stupidly long, so don't worry, it'll be about the same length.
We go off on a lot of tangents.
All right. Well, I like a long podcast, so hey, I got it too, apparently. Undiagnosed.
But yes, we are Lipstick. We sound absolutely nothing like Gojira, so if you're really into Gojira, you might find us to be completely unappealing in every way. But, check us out. We're at lipstickgeneration.com. Listen to our music on YouTube and listen to our podcast on YouTube, iTunes, wherever you want. Have a good one, folks. Peace.